and welcome to our Roundtable Discussion Group 2011. Yep, and we got a nice little panel today. We got Kel from Hawaii is with us, and also we got Mike with us from the New Jersey area, and we got Cisco and Rob with us from New York, and I believe, goodness gracious, might be a bad boy here, but I think it was Bob you said was also with us over there with you, Cisco and Rob?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So that's
good.
Hello.
Y'all are on the air now. Yeah, we got Rob and Cisco and Bob, and we got Mike, and they're in New York and New Jersey, and then Kel in Hawaii, and myself in Seattle, and we're just welcoming everybody to talk about the primary topic today is civil unions versus marriages, and we're just going to hammer it, you know? And we're off to a good start. Well, I can hear it.
But you know, this whole gay union, gay marriage thing and everything else, I do have a little bit of a pet peeve because we had everybody going crazy with this whole, getting into the military BS. I'm sorry, maybe it's me, but why would I fight to get in the military to take a bullet before I would fight for my marriage?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we're going to kill your partner and you're still not going to get benefits. Like, what is wrong with the gay community that they're not thinking clearly? Let's get the first one before we do the second one. You want to shoot at me, make sure my partner's going to get a benefit.
Yeah, or at least notified.
It's not politically correct, possibly, but hey, it just makes common sense to me.
I think that's where a lot of people are going to be disappointed on Don't Ask, Don't Tell, is because that's specifically all that it means, is that, yeah, you can enlist, but you ain't getting nothing else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and the thing is, I kind of feel like it's a little bit of a psyop. Okay, let's get everybody to enlist, and now we have an easier access to bumping off the gays since AIDS didn't do it. It's like, hello, no, people wake up. Let's get our rights first.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
works for me.
Yeah, we got a lot of burners in the fire.
Got a lot of burners in the fire, and basically, I'm talking on a tuna fish can, so everybody kind of sounds like they're underwater. So, bear with me if I don't respond. I am not technologically savvy, and I hate cell phones. That whole thing.
The thing that gets me is we're not asking for anything more.
Exactly.
What so-called straight people get. We're just asking for the same rights.
Yeah, that's why I think it's bad to call it a gay marriage. It should be marriage equality.
Exactly.
Because you're asking for the same things. And, you have all these church groups screaming and carrying on saying, well, whatever your religious beliefs are, there's supposed to be a separation of church and state. If there wasn't so much in terms of legalese and financial backing behind it, I don't think most gays would really be fighting for this. But let's face it, we're being penalized because we're, quote, single. And that's where I have a problem with it. Do I want to get married? Not really. I don't think I want to worry about divorce lawyers and all that crap. But, at the same token, you got to realize some people want it, and more power to them. But to actually have these churches coming out and screaming against it, I don't want to get married in your church anyway, so yeah.
Yeah.
These states that basically are fighting it, how stupid can you be? We're in an economic downturn. You get two gays who are going to plan a big, massive wedding party. Do you know what that's going to do for their economy? They're not thinking.
Yeah.
Well, like I always tell folks, it's not the fact that I want to get married. I just want the option to say no.
Exactly. I know you cannot possess me, like Judy Tenuta used to say. It's just having that option.
Yeah,
and then you kind of well, the thing too is I hate when I hear all these other options too. Well, if we allow gay marriage, then people are going to want to marry their animals, or they're going to want to have to marry. And I sit back and say, whoa, that wasn't even brought to the table. That's not our dark side. That's yours.
Exactly.
You're talking about animals and all this other crazy crap, not us. And then of course they get very defensive. Are you saying I have a dark side? Well, yeah, you brought it up. When you start bringing that to their, when you start getting in their grill about their stupidity, they kind of get very defensive.
Yeah, we're thinking along the lines. Also, we've been together 17 years, working on 18 years, and thank you. And it's been great, but we're getting to that point where we're really close to the senior section of living, and we're not going to have kids, of course. And our families are very small, where we're not going to have anyone to take care of us. So at this point in time, we're connecting with great people and building on our extended family, and that aspect of life is going great. But now we're coming to the point where we don't have any rights. If anything, God forbid, happens, or a higher cause, if anything happens to either one of us, we're going to run through the obstacle of not being able to at points see each other, and we're going to have to go through grief just to try to get to that person and be there for that person like we are on a daily basis, because we're not a seasonal couple. We're together every day. I mean, 90% of the time we're together. So for us to go through that and be at the hospital level and not be able to see each other, that would just put us through hell. And people don't see that aspect of it, that we feel just as much as you feel, above and beyond any title or categorization that we could peg each other on. We cry, we feel, we have emotions. And at that point in time, when God forbid something happens to any of our loved ones, the last thing we want to do is go through any grief or make anything harder than what we need to.
Yeah. Amen.
Well, I think the biggest problem, too, is a lot of people, they see gay marriage or, quote, two gay couples, and right away they're thinking about the sex act. And I constantly tell them, get your head out of my bedroom.
Yeah,
you marry off your kids. Did you think what they were going to do on their honeymoon night? You're not thinking in those terms, so stop thinking in those terms with me. Get your head out of my bedroom.
Do we know where this issue is in terms of, like, the rest of the world? How does the rest of the world deal with gay marriage?
Well, I know
Depends on what part of the world.
Cal's got some
Some parts they
information
kill
he
you.
dug up on that, but. And
Well,
Cal's also, Cal, how long you been? 18
Gay
years?
people in the rest of the world. What are other parts of the world where there are gay people? How are they dealing with this issue? I mean, are we going to be the leader in terms of?
Well, that's the thing.
What do we stand?
We're not the leader in what's going on right now. We're far behind, unfortunately.
Because it's
Well,
a humanity
We're the
issue.
leader in repression.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I
Well,
can't
for myself, my partner and I have been together for nearly 16 years. We'll celebrate our 16th on May the 15th, and we just want to make sure that we can take care of each other when the time comes that we need to do that, and we're just looking to be equal rights with the rest of our human family, and that's an important thing that all couples need to worry about, whether it be straight, gay, black or white, or green with blue polka dots. I mean, that's something we all need to worry about. By the way, just a little off topic, I just want to wish my husband, my honey, my rock, a happy birthday on Monday, and
Happy birthday!
So you don't want me to sing the dorsal howl from one coast to the other. Happy birthday.
and across the ocean too.
You're not kidding. Yeah, I like the dead. Yeah, but that's, you guys are lucky, though, because you're in those long-term extended relationships. Unfortunately, and it does happen in the gay world, I always end up finding the one that has a 10-year expiration date. It's like on their 10th year, they've managed to accumulate enough good points that that's when they're allowed to step out and cheat. And I come from that whole headset where monogamy is not a game from Milton Bradley. So if you're going to cheat, make sure your stuff is packed, or it's going to be burning in the backyard with marshmallows on the sticks for the neighborhood kitties. So now I'm on relationship number 3, and we're at the 6-year mark. So far, so good.
Hey, that's great.
But it's like, I just want to get past the 10-year mark, for once. So the fact that you've got 16, 17 years going on, that's a testament right there.
Yeah.
And it's the reason why I wouldn't want to get married.
To us, it's a sign of equality. It's a sign of love. It's a sign of, you do things for each other, and that's how you make it so long, And I have to applaud both Rob and Cisco for being together as long as they have been together, because in our community, anytime you get past the 10-year mark, it's like an accomplishment, something that should be rewarded or something, because it just doesn't happen very often.
No, it doesn't.
Even friendship. I mean, really, what friendship do you know that lasts anything above 2 years anymore? That's where we're at as people. that even something as little as a friendship or an associate or even a coworker, you really don't, people are so disconnected with each other that they can't even keep relationships, and they're wondering why they can't keep relationships. And people aren't understanding why, and our evolution and technology plays a major part in that, on top of generations of things that have happened for years that we've neglected. And that's where we're at. It's like a really bad pimple. It's all out of head and it's ready to pop,
Yeah.
Well, so you still have a lot of the counterparts who are saying, well, it's a sacrament and everything else. You got the highest divorce rates going. I mean, let's face it, gay people didn't cause you to have your divorces. Gay people didn't cause you to start cheating or doing all these other crazy things. So to try to scapegoat gay people as being the downfall of marriage, bullcrap. Let's take responsibility and admit you screwed up. We're just trying to fix what you screwed.
Well, the thing is
and here's the thing, when you got Britney Spears marrying for 16 hours, and how does that make gay folk look like the evil one? I mean,
I know. But also, too, a lot of this is also a smoke screen. It's kind of a diversionary tactic, not unlike a lot of the infotainment that's thrown at us as news on TV. It's like, let's throw out some knee-jerk situations, gay marriage and everything else. That's a hot topic. So this way we don't have to tell people we're bombing people across the water. We're killing people left and right. We're at a bogus war and all this other crap that's going on. It's just, let's keep the hot buttons going. So this way people are mindlessly going towards the knee-jerk stuff as opposed to the real issues that are going on. Yes, we do have an issue with gay marriage/marriage equality. But at the same token, it's like even our own community isn't being smart enough. But we said earlier, they're worrying about the don't ask, don't tell, before they're worrying about legal rights here in our own country. It's something's getting screwed up along the way. I can't help but feel we're being led.
Well, we're sort of, it's maybe not us as far as us gay people that it's a problem with gay marriage, but what the problem is with gay marriage is the people that choose to live behind the straight marriages that are actually in the closet, and that aspect of them neglecting them being gay that's why we keep getting pegged as that gay people are bad, is because the same people that are saying that the gay people are bad are the same people that are gay, that are married and have the kids and are fighting against us because they're fighting against their own demons.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So these are the people that are creating our obstacles for us because they can't be truthful to themselves because of society, because of their family, so many different levels. And they're the people, they are the gay section, because there's different sections of gay and lesbian and transgender. They're that section of gay that's given us the problem and given us the bad name. And they keep pointing the figure that, the people with leather and their asses hanging out are giving us the bad names. But really, the people that are living behind the marriages and their kids, those are the people that are really giving us the bad names.
Well, the funny thing is, basically the quote, middle of the road gay people, you don't see them, because we just kind of like blend in. We go to work, we do our thing, we come home, we spend our lives with our partner, and we're not out there waving flags and picketing and signages and everything else. And that just is what annoys me about the whole Gay Pride March thing. I don't know when it became a parade. It's still a march in my mind. We're still marching for equality. We're still marching for freedom. And, in my youth, I was up and down the streets with the petitions and the signs, and that was called the racy radical. But it got really annoying when you're doing these marches and you see people running off because they want to go get laid or something. And like, for one day, you can't put your hormones in check? Yeah, that's what started to annoy the crap out of me. And then when you start talking to some people and like, oh, well, yeah, okay, whatever. I want to go to the club tonight. But there's more important things. It's like the logo MTV mentality. And I'm finding people are getting dumber, not smarter. And it's becoming more and more frustrating to try to get the connect going. But it's not just in the gay community. It's all across the board. People are just getting very dumb lately. There's no connect.
And it's a shame because we are such a connected world. I mean, everyone has iPods and cell phones and Blackberries, and you would think that that would make it easier to be connected and in the fight for our rights. But it's not. It just is another excuse for gay boys to go out to the parties and the clubs and the bars and just look at the folks on Grindr. I mean, how many times, have these people hooked up, and just hooked up for sex and not hooked up for, hey, let's go do the Pride March or let's go do, an AIDS walk or whatever the case may be. They just want to hook up and have sex, and that's all it is.
The thing is, we've got all this technology and we've got people becoming less educated. And I see it just with my own nieces and nephews because they do that whole text messaging thing. I'm like, can you write in a complete sentence? You got to try and figure out what this anagram is. Like, no. If you want to talk to me, you either call me or send me a decently well-written email. Don't send me this text crap. I'm not going to read it. I'll just delete it.
It's like major shorthand. LOL. Yeah.
That's the other thing. We've been so conditioned with laugh tracks on TV that we actually now have to have it on the internet. How many times have you seen something being written, or you write something and it really wasn't funny, and the response you get back is LOL, as if you needed to have a laugh track to your message? Like, what? I didn't need the laugh track. Really, I didn't. We could do without it. Everything is an LOL. I just don't get it.
Obviously.
The only thing I want to know about this marriage equality is who's going to be the ring bearer and where they're going to bear the ring. That's what I want to know. Oh, you got it. Good. I was hoping somebody would get that one. But realistically, I mean, could you imagine if they started doing some sort of a reality TV of gay marriages on TV? You would probably start seeing it becoming more of a norm because, let's face it, TV creates the societal norms, unfortunately.
Yeah, it really does.
Look at Queer Eye for the straight guy and all this other stuff. Now, if you started showing how, okay, it's going to cost this much to do a wedding, and you got the wedding planner and the caterer and the tuxedos and the limos and the hall and the flowers and all the crap, some states are going to sit up and say, hey, wait a minute here, there's a big chunk of it, a financial pie here that we're kicking ourselves out of.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the selling point, that you're kicking your state out of finances.
Mm-hmm.
But by the same token, though, we don't want our marriages to become just about the finances and how much we give the general public just because we want to get married. Getting married should be because you love a person, not because you have the most money or because you can throw the most lavish wedding party. It's about getting married. It's about loving one another. It's about community. It's about, that kind of thing.
Granted, but you're always going to have the ones that are going to be holdouts. And if the financial dangled carrot is going to be the thing that's going to make them vote in our favor, then I say go for it. As long as we're going to get our rights, I don't care if the carrot has to be dangled as a financial thing. Some people are going to see it as a loving relationship. Some people are just going to say, well, okay, fine, it's a financial aspect. Whatever it takes to get it, we got to get it. Because otherwise we're just going to sit here going on this merry-go-round where, we want it, they don't want it, we want it, they don't want it. We got to get off that merry-go-round.
Yeah.
We have to present something that's going to at least get to the back of their skulls and say, okay, this is why you want this. This is why you want to bring this in your state. Because that's the only thing they're going to understand. So once you kind of say, hey, your unemployment is at like 15%, you think you might want to bring in some financial backing? It might not be the most scrupulous way to do it, but hey, sometimes you got to do things to do things. What's that old expression? One hand washes the other, two hands wash a face?
Exactly.
Or is that the New York Italian mentality? I don't know.
I'm talking. Definitely.
Or scratch my back, I'll scratch your back kind of thing.
It's pretty much, and doesn't politics do that all the time? Here we got a president who promised and pandered to the gay community, and now he turned his back on us, to a large extent. We're still getting the same kind of Bush doctrine regime that we got before. Patriot Act's been re-signed. We're still not private citizens. You got to go to TSA, and that's TSA, honeymoons, okay? Getting groped by the TSA, is that not like your fantasy? Realistically. I was so pissed.
I just wish he would buy me dinner first.
I refused to fly because of that, because the last time I did, I'm on this freaking long line to nowhere, standing on a dirty floor thinking, okay, I'm probably going to get some sort of foot fungus off of this crap here. Then you get up there, they got to open your bag, riffle through your underwear, take everything out. After they've x-rayed it and already given it a nice little, they've nuked it to death. Then they got to pat you down. I figured, you know what, this is it. I started to moan and groan like that movie Harry Met Sally. I figured, let me embarrass the guy. So, of course, he got nervous and, did his thing and then stopped. I said, oh, this sucks. You make me take off my clothes, you riffle through my underwear, you feel me up, and you don't even buy me dinner? And now you got this wonderful thing where you walk through and they want to see your naked body. Why not just let me walk through naked? I don't want to be irradiated. If I wanted that much radiation, I'd be an X-ray tech, okay? Last thing we need is our nipples glowing in the dark. And they're trying to say that crap is safe. I'm sorry, you go for an X-ray, they put a lead blanket over parts of your body, and the guy goes behind a steel door. Now you got all these masses of people standing in an airport where this machine is on constantly. We're being bombarded with all this X-ray, and you're going to tell me that's safe? No. I don't think so. I'm not flying.
Well, it's almost
there's no honeymoon for my future, that's for sure.
It's almost to the point that, if everyone was in a better, I guess, financial situation, we would be able to, pick a day out of the year where we could actually just, stop working. And if you're gay, stop working, because, then people would realize how important and significant we are in everyday living, from designing to art to, so many different careers and professions that we have that make the world go round. I mean, without us, a lot of the things that we have today for daily living, we wouldn't have as a society, regardless of gay, straight, bi, lesbian, or any of that. We would really wouldn't have half the stuff that we have today.
Well, like I always tell people, we are your bankers, we are your religious folks, we are your, your hairdressers, your barmaids, we're everything. I mean, and the sooner that the straight community realizes this, the sooner I think then we'll start seeing some positive reaction towards our community. But it's a two-way street. It's a two-way street. We also have to respect our community as well.
Exactly.
The biggest irony, though, that I found, straight people who are comfortable with themselves are not the adversaries. I find it's the homophobes who really have this internal hatred and can't accept themselves that are the biggest enemies.
Yeah.
I mean, in my friend circle, I have all straight friends, and everybody's cool with it. But I find periodically you will come across one or two supposedly straight people. And let's face it, we've all seen it. Some woman with some guy, and you're thinking, like, Mary, you got married to some queen here. We've all seen it.
We've all seen
he opens his mouth, he opens the mouth, and the purse drops out. You've seen it. Okay? And you're wondering now how this bitch had to have been blind when she went to the altar. I'm sorry. Either that or she was desperate. She had to sign last woman before the freeway. I don't know why she did it. You see them. And here you got the guy who's like totally homophobic. No, I don't approve of that shit. Please, I know what the hell you're thinking about in the dark. Don't play the game. But those are your enemies.
Well, you know what? To that point, I've always been told the guys that have the biggest problems with homosexuality are homosexuals. Yeah. They just haven't accepted it yet.
Yeah, well, that's it, and you always find the ones who are the most uncomfortable. Those are the ones that you have a problem. Am I beeping on you guys, or I think I got my core waiting going?
Just for a second there you did, but it's okay now.
I did, okay. That's another thing. You spend, like, what, $10 a month for freaking call waiting just to be freaking interrupted. It's like, what is the point of that?
Well,
I hate that service. I do, but I digress.
I'll have to look it up for you, Mike, because there's a code you can type in before you call a phone number, and then you won't be interrupted. But I'll look it up.
I need somebody with a tech savvy like you to tell me this stuff.
Uh-huh.
It's a little late now, isn't it?
Yeah, a little late now.
There you go. It's like you can spend hours without it.
Oh, goodness.
But not really. That's the one thing I have noticed, that if anything, the older I get, I'm finding straight people are more of our allies. That's what I'm finding it.
Yeah, I think more and more every day, and I think that's a good sign.
Yeah, it's more the closet queens and the people that really don't. They can't associate with their own self, and they have a problem within themselves, and they're the ones fighting against us because they're fighting against themselves.
Your own demons.
Their own demons.
So how do we teach them?
Yeah, that's the thing, is that how do you educate people that have been doing this for generations upon generations upon generations? I mean, how do you go about?
We have a society of parrots. You know, they're just going to parrot and believe what they're told from the pulpit or from home. It's bad, it's wrong, it's this, without actually ever sitting back and saying, well, maybe I need to investigate. Why is this so bad? You know, and realistically, you know, love is love. If you're supposedly hearing from the pulpit that this is such an evil, we're promoting love. We're promoting love between two consenting people, not love between 300 people, just two people.
Yeah.
You know, it shouldn't be defined by your sex. It shouldn't be. Why is marriage defined by your genitalia? So basically, if a guy cuts his genitalia or becomes transgender, now he's legal to marry a guy. Now, does not anybody see the hypocrisy there?
But the thing that aggravates that aggravates me the most is that all these high and mighty preacher type people, you know, they all want to preach this kind of thing, but yet we hear stories about preachers standing on the street corners masturbating across some playgrounds. And I'm like, and we're evil? I mean,
I got one better. My brother used to constantly pray that I would, you know, try to do the pray away the gay thing. I finally had to yell at him to stop praying because all I kept meeting were gay priests. Wow. I spent a year dating nothing but gay priests. I was like, will you stop praying for me? Right. I don't want a priest. You know?
That goes right back to that. That's our main obstacle, are people like that keep hiding behind the marriages, that are having the issues on their own sexuality. And the law promotes behavior. A lot of this stuff that we're up against, from every aspect, outside, inside the gay community, a lot of the laws promote the behavior that we have within our society. You know, and it really, really is. It's deeper. It's deeper than just the gay community. But the thing is that how do you change these things? I mean, there has to be a way to role reverse. Well, basically what your video did, Tom, with role reversal. You know, how would you feel if, you know, the world was gay and the straights were the outsiders? You know,
well, the whole thing, again, because we know that the homophobes, the ones who are internalizing their own homophobia, they're going to have to go through their path, because we've all had to go down our own path. Some of us had a harder time than others, you know, where you got to the point of acceptance and change and transition, etc. I saw it even with my own brother. My little brother got married, lived in the closet, the whole 9 yards, and then decided when he couldn't take it anymore, he was going to burst out like, you know, some seedling. And of course, me being Judge Judy on steroids, I was like, you already bought your vow when you said I do. Okay? So then you either tell her so she could find somebody who loves her and then go live your life. He thought he was going to have it both ways, and I wasn't having it. Especially in the day and age of age. No. You're not going to go screwing around and bringing her home something. It's not happening. You know, so of course it caused a little bit of a rift and everything because, you know, I tend to be demure and slightly less opinionated. You know, I tend not to speak my mind too often. But he didn't like it and got really pissed off with me. You know, and I said, well, what did you think? I was going to do like, you know, Harvey Firestein with Robert Williams. Go, brah, this isn't Mrs. Doubtfire. Okay, you got married, you got kids. You know, you're doing things you shouldn't be doing. You know, it's like, this is the deal. So, you know, basically that's what opened up my parents' minds, believe it or not, because I was ostracized, and after they saw the kind of downfall that it caused between the stress with the wife, the stress with the kids, I actually got from my own parents, you know, I have a newfound respect for you. And why is that? Because you knew who you were and you didn't deviate from that no matter what we said or did. I said, that's how I've lived my life. Okay? I'm not going to be a lie to make you happy. Okay? So by my brother living the lie, he made the whole freaking family unhappy. Okay? So that had to obviously be the picket fence blowing up that woke a lot of people up there.
Yeah.
You know, but the whole thing, too, is like even now when you got this whole civil union things, even just here in New Jersey, we've got civil unions are permitted, okay? It's considered as a marriage, but you can't file, you know, any kind of income tax together. So what benefit are you getting from a civil union? Don't pee on my leg and call it rain, okay? It's not what it is. It's not the same thing. I'm not getting the same legal rights. You know, and the bottom line is you want the same, not different. And that's the thing that drives me crazy. You hear so many people say, oh, they want special rights. No, I want the same. I should be able to see
like here in Hawaii.
In the hospital. What's up?
Here in Hawaii, we just gained civil unions after a long and bitter fight, thanks to one Larry Lingle. Anyway, we looked at the bill, and it does include all the same state rights. It does not include the same federal rights, however. And that needs to be a clear distinction when we're talking about civil unions or domestic partnerships or whatever title you want to give it. We're not given the same federal rights as we are state rights.
Let me interject just a second.
That's why I go back to that whole don't ask, don't tell. It's okay for me to federally join and get a bullet in my chest and get a nice little, get a cemetery in Virginia. But it's not okay for me to have the right to die and have my partner receive the benefits.
Right.
No.
Okay.
We got to get a little loud about this. It's just not right. Not too long ago we even had a police officer. She was dying of cancer, and she fought tooth and nail so her partner would get the benefits. She managed to go to her death with her partner being able to get it, but it was a long, drawn-out fight for this woman. Why should somebody on their deathbed be going through this? Where's the humanity?
That's for sure.
Who are you to say? Here's a woman dying. It's not like she's out there sleeping around. They've been together X number of years. She served her country. She was a cop, for crying out loud. She did what she had to do. And you're going to tell her no? She was okay when you needed her. But it's not okay to give her the benefits that she's entitled to. I have a problem with it. And I think that's where we got to kind of start turning off the TV, stop hitting up the clubs, and just start kind of doing our own little grassroots, meet, greet, get together, and let's get these issues together, get them on the table, let's get it out there in the public. That's why Rob, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but she started out as a comedian, and she was like one of the first to get married out there in California. She has been on the forefront of activism from day one, and I give her a lot of credit because, the pitfalls that keep coming up on this woman, and yet she still keeps fighting the fight. Whereas most guys are, whatever, we'll try another time. We can't keep becoming complacent. Freedom isn't free. You have to take it. You have to demand it. You can't just sit back and say, I want it, I'm going to shout about it. No, you just got to mobilize. And if we don't mobilize, if we don't start speaking our minds and start getting it out there, it's just never going to happen because it's not going to be given freely. Nothing ever is.
Well, and here's the other thing. We have to do this because the next generation of young gay men and lesbians and bisexuals, we want to make their world better than what we had it.
And it's funny you said that because I was thinking it's crazy with the thoughts that can come through your head while you're changing a litter box. I can't figure out why it comes together. But I was thinking this morning while changing, I'll tell you change a litter box once, you really don't need the friggin' cat. But I was thinking, maybe we do need a little bit more oppression at this point. Because the young gays are at the point where they don't know about the history of what it took to get to the point we're at now. Granted, we're not as far along as we'd like to be, but we're a hell of a lot further along than we were back in 1980. And here you've got these kids taking it for granted. And they have no clue. There's no gay history in their minds. They don't know from Stonewall. They don't know that it took a drag queen beating up on the cops to create what became the Gay Pride March every year. They're not aware of all this. So in that sense, it's like we're doing a disservice by having these wonderful gay programming on TV, but it's not really showing the information. Let's show the pretty Twinkies. Let's show mindless fluff. We need to start demanding, even in our own culture, hey, we need to put the education out there. And the other thing, too, we got to think about. When a straight couple wants to get married, they can do it with a license. Okay? We as gay couples have to have proof that we've been living together for more than a year. We have to prove that we have a joint checking. We have to prove that we have utility bills prior to a civil union application being approved. That's fair? Okay? That's a civil union? What is so civil about that? You're treating us as second-class citizens in our own country. You're two people who just want to bump and reproduce for the hell of it. Boom, here's your license, go ahead. And let's face it, there are people out there who really should not reproduce. We've all seen them. We've seen those offspring that spawned from hell. It's like, what were you thinking of it that night? You've seen them.
Oh, goodness.
I mean, really, they're like lost mutants from some horror film, and it's like, why? Why did you choose to reproduce?
Hey, I got to tell everybody,
that's their right. They can do it.
I put together a URL for the, because I have this a box, it's called box.net, where you can put files, and I have a little bit.ly, a short URL to give everybody, because some people want to see, because you often hear about the federal rights. Well, back in 1997, they did a government study on it, and they had over 1,000, just over 1,000 whatever. And then in 2004, they did an update, and I have these two files available in PDF format. I believe you can actually view them at the URL. And if anyone wants to read what all these over 1,000 or now, which is now over 1,100 rights that are granted federally to marriage, you can do so at bit.ly/QPR box. The word QPR stands for Queer Public Radio, of course, and then the word box, B-O-X. Stick it together like it's one word. bit.ly/QPR box. And both those documents are available for anyone that might want to see what federal rights, there are granted just because you're married. Just had to throw that in.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also, too, I think we've got to also keep building up our own community. And I remember back in the 80s when I was just this demure nubile youth, they actually had the gay yellow pages. And for quite a while, a lot of us, at least in the New York and California regions, did all our shopping through the gay yellow pages. If it was a gay-owned business, that's what we supported. Maybe we need to start looking back to where we were and come upon that and start doing it again. Because it's getting to the point where we've gone so mainstream now that we're Will and Grace-ified. It's like, you've got to have a gay friend. And we're okay as long as we make you laugh. But then when we make you think about doing something that's, unjust, people don't want to hear about it.
Well, they tell us they want us to buy American. We should be buying LGBT.
Yeah, and most major metropolitan areas have those. I mean, I know here in Seattle they have them. They have a booklet, that's it's LGBT-friendly businesses and such. Blah, 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 it's kind of the same thing.
Well, there's also the Gay and Lesbian Directory.com. Gay Lesbian Directory.com. They have, listings of gay businesses that are available to us. So definitely check out Gay and Lesbian Directory.com too.
Yeah.
Okay,
Good.
I wasn't aware that was in existence because I remember there used to be a print. There's a booklet that you used to get from the Oscar Wilde bookstore in the Village, and even then, a lot of our gay bookstores, the clean ones, they're fading and disappearing. So it's almost as if we're not reading anymore. We're not supporting our own cinema. We're not supporting our own musical artists.
Right.
We've allowed a lot of this to escape us. So in sense, we've kind of diluted our own financial impact. And in doing so, it's what's causing a lot of the backlash where they're not going to help us out. And unfortunately, politicians today, they only know money. And I hate to keep coming back to it, but let's face it, it's what makes the world go around. The bucks are there, they're going to hear you. And that's how a lot of these lobbyists get through. They put down their little money, they get their little promises, and they start pushing the laws. And maybe if we start doing the same thing, start getting our own community back up again. It's a thought.
No, it's definitely, you're right on it. I mean, but we're just so disconnected from, technology once again helps it. Once we start creating things where people start coming out more and wanting to be a community, that's when we'll be, more powerful. Like, we need to start having the movie nights again. Something as little as that will bring at least people together to brainstorm, of course about the movie, but at the same time also our own common interests, which should be our own rights.
Mm-hmm.
That should be above and beyond anything as far as, the front of our minds that, we're lacking on rights in so many different levels.
Well, and here's the other thing, and how do you reach the ones in the middle part of the country? I mean, it's all fine and dandy for us to do this on the coast and everything, but it's the middle part of the country that seems to have the most religious vigor And how do we reach these farming communities and these these little tiny hole in the wall towns? I mean, it's got to start there, I think.
Oh yeah.
If this was 1980, I'd say yeah, I feel for these people because they have no way. We are now living in the information age with the technology and computers, and just about every house right now has one at least. If someone really wanted to look for information, they can pull it up on the net at this point. So the information can be had a lot more easily than when we were younger, or at least me. I mean, I'm brother's born 1 million years ago. But, it's not like what it was. Back then you had to go to the library, you had to look up at the card index, you had to kind of like sneak to get the book out, all this other stuff. Now, boom, it's a couple of clicks and you're there. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, we have the information. You've got those telephone and the tweets and all this other crazy crap. So the ones in the middle America, they're not going to be hurting as much as back, 20, 30, 40 years ago. So in that sense, I think, the important thing is to make sure the information is available. And make sure it's information that's viable, as opposed to like, okay, well, I'm Paris Hilton, and all of a sudden, I want to talk about Britney's dress. Who cares? I don't care if her Budenda was hanging out. I wouldn't look at it normally, so why would I want to see it on the news? We need to get the real news out. What's going on. I mean, there was actually a newspaper in the Village, New York native, and it was pretty good in terms of reporting stuff, but unfortunately, they even had to fall prey to constantly having some sort of a semi-nude photo on the cover in order to sell, which is pretty sad. If that's what it's going to take to appeal to the gay market, that's a crying shame.
Well, and if you look at the advertisements for the cruise ships, I mean, they all got a bunch of naked or half-naked or Speedo-clad men. I mean, I like to look at that stuff as much as the next guy, but, be real here,
I think, but that's not just the gay community. That's society at large.
It's society. They're using the sex to sell. I mean, that's with anything in marketing. But it's not but unfortunately, when it comes to the gay community, that's what is interpreted as the end-all, be-all of who and what we are. Because most people don't make the connection.
They think we're a bunch of leather queens and drag queens, and they think that that's all we are. They don't realize that we are your average firemen or your cops or whatever. They don't see that because the news media doesn't report on that. They only want to report on things that are sensational.
Yeah, exactly.
And not truthful in nature.
I know people that think gay bars they compare them to the Blue Oyster Bar from Police Academy. That's sad.
Yeah. Well, that's what I've had my words with Logo too, because they had that 18 nonsense, which just showed a bunch of really catty, nasty queens. I saw one episode and that was it. I tuned it out. And now you got RuPaul's Drag Race. Okay, fine, wonderful. RuPaul, whatever. But that's not the end-all, be-all of what we are and who we are as a society. There are a lot of people who wear flannel. There are a lot of people who look like your next-door neighbor. There are a lot of people who look like gym rats. There are a lot of people who just look like somebody who just, had a helium hose shoved up their butt. Yeah, we come in all shapes and sizes. But that's not getting out there. We're just being seen and perceived by what the media is saying, who and what we are. So everybody that's like Jack on Will and Grace, that's what gay is. Or you're the self-loathing, Will. The media message is obviously very powerful, and how we adapt that is what's going to either make or break us. So that's why it's important. Yes, come out, as long as you're safe to do so. I mean, anybody living at home, I say don't come out until you've had your own place, because how many people get booted out of their own homes at an early age? It's not a pleasant, pretty sight. But again, this is where we got to start mobilizing. It's not all about just going out to a dance. It's not all about let's go do some tacky stuff. We do have to put the effort in. And in that sense, that's why I'm kind of, I'm enamored by the lesbian community, because they kind of were so disenfranchised that they had to set aside themselves. They've got their own record labels. They've got their own cruise ships. They've got their own, groups where they can kind of sit down and get grassroots things going. So they've had the experience over the years because they had to. And they've adapted. And yet, even like in the AIDS crisis, they were the ones who were the forerunners of trying to get so many services out there for people dying with AIDS. But they don't get the credit for it. And it's a shame, because our sisters are the ones they're the backbone. We really got to acknowledge that.
No,
Well, not only do we have to acknowledge it, we don't. Not only do we have to acknowledge it, but we have to celebrate it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I remember when the AIDS crisis hit in the city, and it was a time of paranoia, and everybody was guilty of it. If you had so much as a sniffle, that was it. Everybody steered clear of you. But it was the women who basically they stood up to the challenge because their friends were dying. They were feeding their friends. They were diapering their friends. Where your gay male friends were panicking. Oh, no, I can't. I don't want to be up. So, in a sense, we dropped the ball back then. The women didn't. And what do they get for it? You know, oh, okay, we still have the separation. Well, no, we can't keep having the separatist stuff. You know, yes, there are going to be times
especially within our own community, because I mean,
absolutely.
I know gays who won't even come within 10 feet of a lesbian. I mean, you know, what's up with that?
Yeah.
Gays that put the drag queens down.
You see, we definitely know the importance of our fellow lesbians, our fellow drag queens, transgender. I mean, as long as we don't realize that we need to take the time to learn from each other, because in the long run, if we learn about each other, we'll learn about ourselves, because we're so similar and we're so connected. We really are. We all come from, regardless of our color and ethnicity. I'm Hispanic. I happen to be Puerto Rican background, and I can say that I've connected from so many different ethnicities outside of my own background. So at that point in time, I have to realize that, you know what, set that all aside, and I'm looking to learn from each individual and grow, because in the process, I will grow as an individual myself.
Exactly, and that's what we need to start getting. We need to start injecting that into our own community, because there's been too much separation. And the more that there's the separation, then you got the media separation, the technology separation.
Exactly.
The dilution is really fractioning us into too many different corners. And that's basically what the politicians want. If the whites are going to hate the blacks, and then you got the gay men are going to be against the drag queens and the lesbians, as long as there's all these divisions and walls, there's never going to be a unified voice. So we need to start our own community.
Exactly. If we can't even unite in our own community, how can we ever expect to unite with the human family?
Bingo. You know, and this is where the outreach comes in handy. We need to start doing that, whether it's on a small scale or on a large scale, but we got to start doing it. You know, coming home and, you know, turning the key in the lock and then just flopping down in front of the couch, it's not outreach. You know, and unfortunately, we're in a society where we want everything convenient. Well, sometimes you got to inconvenience yourself to make a difference. You know, because what are we leaving behind? I mean, as far as I see this world, we're in hell in a handbasket right now.
Yeah. Well,
you know, we're like at the pimple prick ready to explode.
Yeah.
Between the wars going on, the economy down the toilet, you know, the divisiveness between, you know, the rich and the poor, and the Democrats and the Republicans, the Tea Partiers and the Sarah Palin moose bagging bullshit. We are ready to explode in this country.
What we need is a revolution. We need to stand up, rise up, and, you know, take our country back.
Yeah, and the only way we're going to start, we got to take our country back, but at the same token, we also have to start taking ourselves back. Exactly. We have to take our history back, because we don't learn about gay history in school. No. You don't learn about Alexander being gay. You don't learn about all the gay characters in history who've done anything. I mean, when have you heard in school that Cole Porter was a homosexual who wrote very successful music and plays? You didn't learn about that stuff. You had to actually come out and find out. You know, and that's one of the things I noticed, the difference between gays of today and gays of maybe way back. I mean, back then there was that sense of camp, but also the sense of enculturation. You know, there was a sense of understanding literature and art and music. Now everything is just all, we're processed people. We're like a Mickey D's drive-through now. You know, our attention span is about as long as 20 minutes, which is the same as everybody else. And at the same token, we want to try and adapt and make a change in terms of, you know, equality in marriage. But yet, even in our own society, in our own gay culture, we don't have that. You know, this is where we got to start focusing. We got to start bringing back some insight.
Well, I know here locally in New York City, on Christopher Street, where of course Stonewall happened, and right now it seems like the gay community is really neglecting Christopher Street just because you're seeing a certain background hanging out there more than a certain, another background that at that time was hanging out there. And now we seem to be neglecting that culture, which could be so viral in setting the statement that we need to make now with the teens that are hanging out on Christopher Street. I mean, you see the teens that they're hanging there in packs. Why, how do we get down there and actually communicate and talk to and connect with these kids and show them what's important? That's really where a lot of our that's who we have to touch right now, are the kids that are 18, 19, 20. I mean, of course, the younger ones also, but then it becomes a major problem that, you're trying to, recruit and this and that. And, so you sort of have to figure out, what's the approach?
The reality is, we in New York.
That is basically, that is a scar that we have to constantly worry about, and it's the truth. Because if you talk to them at a young age, of course, everybody's going to say, "Out, you're a pedophile," which nothing burns my ass harder than when I hear that kind of crap.
Exactly.
You touch a kid, I'll be the first in line to shoot you down.
At the
but
same
at the same token, and even back in the early '80s, you could walk
kids
in the village and it was safe.
Exactly, so.
I hate to interrupt here, but my partner Wes would like to break in and say a few comments, if he may.
Excellent.
Go ahead, Wes.
Welcome. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
All right.
Go ahead, caller. Wes. Put the line.
Hello, guys. I'm Wake Haley. I'm Kale's partner. And I just wanted to say that I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Most important.
For some reason, it's breaking up on our end. I'm not sure if it's breaking up on everyone else's end, but it's not coming through clearly.
Now we need Ernestine. We need Lily Tomlin to do Ernestine. Good gracious, caller, are you there? I need to see you.
One ringy ding.
Hello, Felicia. We got a live one on the other end.
Uh-oh. Wakeli, we lost Wakeli.
Wes was abducted.
It says there's rainstorms out there in Hawaii.
Possibly.
Yeah, and even when there's not rainstorms, he has his electricity just go out once in a while. But it says he's still connected. I don't know why. I show him still connected on my panel. So,
And I thought I had bad networking over here. Oof.
Well, I know definitely things like Queer Public Radio and things that Tom is doing really is gonna set the path for us,
Set the bar.
Yeah, give us the resources needed to connect with the right people and definitely start making more of a difference. And like Kale said earlier, we really have to think about also the people in the middle of the country that,
Did not go through. Please try your call later.
That was Ernestine.
Got a real one.
wow, I think his wife.
You brought up a great point, and I'm glad you did, because one of the reasons why I found Queer Public Radio was because I was listening to a lot of the alternative press and, talking about the freedom and the Constitution and all this other stuff. And basically, I'm too left for the right and too right for the left, so I just park my ass in the middle, and anybody that comes through, I'm just going to charge a toll. But at the same token, when you look at some of the gay stations that are out there, it's like it's either all about music or it's all about gossip. But there's nothing pertaining to news information pertaining to
your call did not go through. Please try.
Okay, Ernestine, now you're plucking on my last nerve. Ernestina will come there and I'll poke you one. Go ahead. I'm going to do Mama D on you. Anyway, but that's why the QPR is so important, because there really isn't anything like it right now. So if you listen to alternative radio, yes, you're going to hear it. But at the same token, while they're talking freedom, they're ready to amend the Constitution to, prohibit gay marriage. Do I want to sit and listen to that crap? No. So at least with QPR, you can listen to things from a gay perspective, and it doesn't have to be too far right. It doesn't have to be too far left. It's just presenting it there, such as this roundtable, and some of the news infos or the interviews that, Tom is doing and everything. it's a beacon out there right now. It's that little glimmer of hope. It's that light in the darkness that we need to really focus on and stay and pay attention to, because there isn't another station out there like it. If there was, I would have told you. You know, because I've been looking. You know, so that's why I really appreciate the fact that Tom has been, you know, at the forefront, pushing this, trying to get the news out there, trying to get the information out there. Because if I have to turn on one more gay station where they're talking that, you know, and let's face it, the Queenie infotainment stuff, it just burns me too far. It's enough. I don't want to hear about somebody's clothing line. I don't want to hear about somebody's fragrance line. You know, I don't want to hear who's high, who's stoned, who's strung out. What's the point?
Well, one of the things that I thought was very important is supporting our own community monetarily.
Yeah.
We just absolutely need to get back to that. As somebody said, we've become too mainstream, and we're supporting everybody, and the rest of the world is loving it.
Yeah.
We need to show the clout that gay money brings.
Exactly. And we're not going to do it if we keep, you know, paying for all these different places who, I mean, the whole big thing with the Chick-fil-A, there was that whole big expose where they were supporting anti-gay proposition. Then you had Target who was funding some politician who was anti-gay. We need to stop.
Right.
If you're a gay person, you've got no business walking through Target, period.
Exactly.
And we don't.
Well,
We do
it's
not
cheap.
walk. No, we do not. We do not go to Target.
Okay, but for the two that don't, there's 300 who will. You know,
Right,
and the argument,
yeah.
well, it's cheaper there. Okay, so basically you're willing to sell out your liberty and your freedom for a friggin' cheap-ass price of something made in China.
Yeah.
You gotta go. You gotta go.
Yeah, that's what people. People's budgets are more controlling what's right.
That's how people think.
That's where we're at right now as people, is that my pockets are dictating before and above and beyond anything that's right, and that's why if we had more larger, I guess, corporations like I guess the straight world does, where they can back up a lot of the things they do. If we had people where they could back up a day where we could stop working, the whole United States, everyone that's gay, do not work this day, and let's see how the United States is going to survive and live that day that we all say, you know what, we're not going to work. I'm not going to do your hair today. I am not going to cut a pattern for your tuxedo. No, I am not going to save these lives. I'm not going into this fire because, you know what, I am gay. And since you don't want to support me as a gay individual, then you know what, I am not going to help that child that's in there. Unfortunately, it has to be that lives have to be lost in order to prove a point, unfortunately, because people are so disconnected with what's right, what's important.
And I think also it depends on what part of the country you're living in, because when I was talking with Robin Tyler not too long ago, which, Tom, check your mail, you got her phone number, you got to give her a call.
Right
on
now?
the show. I just sent you an email with her number.
I'm supposed to call her now?
Do I?
I'm supposed to call her now or after the show?
Now. But that's the whole thing, because on her side, because she's so active, she is seeing a whole different impetus of people on her end of the coast. Whereas over here on the northeast coast, we're not seeing any movement. You know, it's almost as if we're living in a vacuum. You know, and it's trying to mobilize the groups. We have to get there.
Well, I know definitely. What part of Jersey are you out of? If you don't mind.
God, I'm in God's waiting room.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, so for the other
The
people,
most exciting thing that happens here is elderly people fighting over the last box of Jell-O in the supermarket. Honey, I saw that first. I'll kill you if you take it. You don't have much going on here. I want to reach that wonderful age where I can sit in one of those little wheelie scooters in the supermarket and poke you with a cane like something out of the Little Rascals. Get out of my way. I'm looking forward to being that curmudgeon.
I will say also that we do have a major problem in the middle of the country. I spent years working for the AIDS Foundation here in Kona, and when I started talking about it online to people, they were afraid to let their parents know they were gay because they knew they were going to be kicked out of their house if they did. So I became like a resource to them as far as where they could go to talk to people, to get support, to get backing, that sort of thing. That's something we've lost in this community, is redirecting people to proper sources.
You know, well, even to the lack of resources that are out there, you know, for the younger ones. Now,
Right.
I don't think they're that lacking. It's just that they're not aware, because you're not going to be taught about it in school, let's face it.
Okay.
And even in the health class, when you have, you know, they talk about sex education and, you know, they talk about gay things for one day, it's sanitized. I mean, I'm not saying you got to be so blatantly bold and say how every position is done. No. But, I mean, there are going to be people in the school, 1 or 2, maybe even 10, that might be gay. You know,
Okay, I'm going to bring Robin in now. Y'all ready for
When you've
Robin?
got kids committing suicide because they're being outed at school, and it's happening on a college level, we got a problem.
Right, exactly.
And it doesn't matter what part of the country you're at. I mean, there's been suicides across this country, and you know, all for the past 6-7 months, has it only been realized by the media? I mean, and now
that's
that
what we heard about.
And the media, you know, still refuses to cover this as an important issue, and it is. I mean, you got our next generation killing themselves over this. I mean, come on. This is an issue that the media needs to pay attention to.
But I think, and the reason why I think it's happening again is because the media, what they have paid attention to is, you're gay, you're a clown. And
one thing the media and the country has forgotten, there's a parable in the Bible that goes, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." That never seems to come out when they're talking about gay people.
Yeah.
No, and a lot of the people that want to point to the Bible and everything else, I have a word for them. I call them hypocristians. You know, they like to take, you know, 1 from column A, 3 from column B, as if it's a Chinese menu. You know, if you're going to live it the whole way. Exactly.
Cherry picking.
If you're going to do it, live it the whole thing before you start worrying about what I'm doing. And instead of worrying about what I'm doing, why not go do some service to somebody who's poor? Why don't you go feed the homeless? Why don't you do some good instead of sitting here trying to make people miserable? You know, that to me is the benchmark of somebody who's really a Christian. Somebody who's trying to alleviate suffering, wherever it may be. Not sitting here saying, well, you can't do it, or the West Borough abortions. That whole God hates fags. I want to picket them saying, yeah, I know I'm going to hell. I bought my ticket in advance.
And I'll see you there. I'll meet you there.
There you go. Oh, seriously. I mean, I would love to get a bunch of Satanists just to picket them, just to annoy the crap out of them. You know, it's like
you better keep the stew hot for me, then.
Okay, guys, let me bring Robin in. Hold on a second.
Oh, thank God.
We can't just bring her in the middle of everyone jabbering on, you know. We got to be silent for a minute and let me bring Robin in. But she can't, you know, otherwise she's just going to hear a bunch of people jabbering when I connect with her, you know. So hold on a minute.
Well, I'm going to sign out and go back to the computer and listen in.
Nice meeting you, and thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Okay. Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha. Okay, here it is. It should be ringing now. This
Robin
is
Tyler?
Robin.
Yes?
Hi, Robin. This is Tom with Queer Public Radio. We got a panel of people. We got Mike going, and Mike, I believe that you contacted through email or something.
Yes.
Yeah, but you already have the panel. You have the panel going already, right?
Yeah, the panel started about, a little over an hour ago.
We're just a warm-up act.
No. That's okay. You can call me back another time.
Okay.
He arranged to have you call me at 12, and I waited, and I've been waiting for you guys to call, so I don't know what you said, so at this point joining me.
Actually, right now, Robin, I really do think that your opinions at this point, because you're at the forefront, would be most telling, because so far we've just been a warm-up act, just voicing out our opinions and everything else.
What's your opinion?
Basically, we're not happy with the civil union thing, because being considered just something as a permission is not enough.
Let me just answer that one thing, and then you'll wait. The civil unions, they say it's separate but equal. When they give African American water fountains, the same fountain right next to each other, the same water, they said that was separate but equal. But the reason they had segregated water fountains was to diminish to diminish the importance or the equality of the people forced to drink from the second water fountain. So that's what it means. So the reason they want to give us another name is by saying we're not good enough to have the name marriage. Well, marriage, first of all, is not a religious ceremony. Marriage is a civil contract between two adults, and we're not looking for gay marriage because there's no such thing as a gay driver's license or a gay death certificate, so there's no such thing as a gay marriage certificate. We're only looking for same-sex couples to have rights to an already existing marriage certificate. And for any of us that think we can pacify the radical right by accepting that second water fountain, all it does is perpetuate us as second-class citizens.
Well,
Amen.
very well put.
Hey, we need an applause button.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, this is, you spearheaded what we've been trying to get at. Because we were saying we don't want to call it a gay marriage, we want it marriage. You know, it should be marriage equality.
Is it a gay marriage license? Do you have it when you go for a license? Is it a gay death certificate? It's the right wing that called it gay marriage. I don't even call it same-sex marriage because after marriage, sex is never the same. So.
That's a true sister.
All right, but don't tell my wife I said that, okay?
So where are they now on your end of the coast with all this?
Where are we?
Yeah, because I know you guys have been like spearheading this over there like crazy.
Well, first of all, people don't know that two men were married in 1971 in Minnesota, and marriage was legal, and it was a professor and a lawyer, an attorney. Gosh, you know, I don't have my information up, and it was a very famous case. They're still married to this day. There was nothing against marriage between same-sex couples at that time. And in 1974, it's a very famous case. In 1974, two men went to Arizona, just got married, and one was from Australia, and they actually challenged that law. And at that point, the ACLU didn't want to carry it up beyond, not from the states, but your first lower court system, because they thought they would lose. But the fact is, marriage equality is not a new issue. It's something we've been dealing with since the 1970s. It's only become new because all of a sudden the right wing used it to push back on us to get elected. But it's not. Did you know that men were already married in the 70s? Same-sex couples?
Of course.
Yeah. Okay.
So how valuable are we as a people in terms of Washington?
What does that mean? What did you say?
So how valuable are we as a people, as a gay couple, to the people in Washington?
Well, it matters how valuable we are to ourselves, and then, power is never given, it has to be taken. And President Obama, I'm very pleased that he came out finally saying it wasn't constitutional, but you must remember that Barack Obama was a constitutional attorney, so he knew it wasn't constitutional, but I'm still giving him credit for finally saying so. In 1994, he actually came out for marriage equality in Chicago, in a speech in Chicago. But let me go on to where do we go from here? What does this mean? One of the things is, does this mean we're assimilating? Does this mean, do we put this ahead of other rights? Right? These are the sort of the pushback questions from our own community. And first of all, this is not a matter of, they didn't say to Rosa Parks when she got on the bus, well, you're only getting on the bus to go to a capitalist place to work, and why is that more important than getting equal pay in the job? Do you know what I'm saying? And yet, when we want to have equal civil rights, we get challenged by our own community. Why is this an important issue? It's an important issue because 25% of gay men and lesbians are raising children, and so it's important to protect those children. It's an important issue because elderly lesbian and gay people, if they don't have legal recognition, and I'm talking to the people that agree with us about Social Security, it sort of puts it has put a lot of couples into poverty when one has passed away. And so this thing about, well, this isn't really us, we really want to be sexually liberated. Nobody is saying not to be. If people want to pursue whatever they want to pursue, fine. But I cannot have members of my own community tell me that I am not entitled to every civil right that every other American citizen is entitled to. American adult citizen. I shouldn't say American because I'm from Canada. So essentially the pushback from our own community about marriage was really a way of taking it off this is historic in that we have transferred thinking of ourselves as a gay liberation movement, which is mostly pushing, the right to not being arrested for sex and so forth and so on, and that was correct. But we've dragged people to thinking of us as a gay civil rights movement. I can say lesbian, gay, bisexual, but I'm just going to say gay for this, to shorten it, as a gay civil rights movement. And as a civil rights movement, we're entitled to everything that everybody else is entitled to in this country. And there was an article in the Los Angeles Times that said, because Barack Obama said it was unconstitutional, therefore any of the laws, any of the things that go up to the Supreme Court, and I'm not saying that the right-wing Supreme Court will rule for us, but it changes the whole tenor of everything, of the right to work, of ENDA, the right to work, the right to serve. It changes everything, because if we are recognized as a suspect class, which Obama said we were, and what the California court said we were, a suspect class means a legitimate minority, so that when people discriminate against us, they take on the whole class and not on an individual basis. And so for the first time in American history, we were recognized as a suspect class in the decision in California. It wasn't just about marriage. It said we were entitled to every civil right. And that's what Obama's just said right now is the fact is we are entitled to strict scrutiny, which means we're a suspect class or a legitimate minority. And therefore this issue, which we've all been battling, with each other somewhat, is really going to be, as far as I'm concerned, the Trojan horse upon which all of our rights ride, because it's going to open every kind of discrimination against us. And as a civil rights movement, which we are, it's going to say you can't discriminate at all, because they are, in fact, a suspect class entitled to strict scrutiny. Did that make sense, what I said?
It does. But I got a question, though, because one of the things that we did touch upon was we have the younger gay population who have no essence of the history of the gay rights movement or the civil rights for us. And everything has just basically been watered down and marginalized to just, comic strip stuff on TV. How do we get to the point where we start waking people up to realize, hey, by you accepting this, you are drinking from that second fountain?
Well, I will tell you that when we marched against Prop 8, when Prop 8 here, and it's called a petitioner when you go to overturn something. I went to the Supreme Court to try to overturn Prop 8 in California. When Prop 8 was passed, you had tens of thousands of us on the streets for months in Los Angeles, and most of the people on those streets were younger people. I probably was the oldest one I saw on the streets. And so when you think that all of a sudden they woke up and said, oh my goodness, we don't have any rights. And so that was, so I'm not worried about waking them up to it. What I'm worried about is that we should not be an internet revolution. We think by talking to each other on the web and getting our anger out and fighting with each other on the blogs that it does anything. The only two ways to move in the civil rights agenda are, one is advocacy, which means political and legal advocacy, like the log cabin Republicans sued to overturn Don't Ask, Don't Tell, or we sued to overturn the marriage issue in California. That's advocacy, including political advocacy. But you can't have just advocacy without activism. Activism and advocacy. So you have to be on the streets. And it's not enough to have activism just on the web. I believe that Get Equal, insulting President Obama everywhere he was, and Don't Ask, Don't Tell, that really helped push it because it got the press that we needed to say that they're not doing what they said they're going to do. And so I don't think it's a matter of young people learning it, because here in California, they were out on the streets. But I think it's a matter of dealing with older people like myself and the generation above me who somehow think that gaining civil rights will make being a gay community assimilate. But I don't think it's all about Ellen DeGeneres and I love Ellen and Melissa Etheridge or whoever. By the way, I just want to put in a thing that I'm really glad that Christian Dior fired that anti-Semitic gay man that said he liked Hitler. I'm just throwing that in because I'm Jewish. But anyway, that's it. So I believe in our youth. Here's the other thing. We tell them it gets better, right? I think that's a great campaign by Dan Savage and his husband. It gets better. However, if African Americans just said to African American youth, in the 60s, it gets better. What does that mean? It's not enough for us to tell them it gets better. We have to make it better for them. It's not enough just to say, it gets better, just trust it. As you get older, you'll feel better. We need to lay out that path and to make sure that our youth doesn't have to go through what we went through, which was the discrimination, the 30% alcoholism and drug addiction rate in our community, the name calling, the F word and the D word and this word. And so it's really up to us to not just talk about to them it gets better, but to keep fighting to make it better.
And to show the younger population that actions speak louder than words. You have to show them that it gets better, and you have to show them how to make it better. You can't just tell them it gets better.
That's right. And we have to show each other how to make it better. I mean, we need to every time they do something about us, like I was just in Arcadia at a protest, the mayor of Arcadia spent $5,000 of taxpayer money to honor the guy from Focus on the Family. And so 150 of us showed up in Arcadia. I had to get up at 5 in the morning and slept to Arcadia, which is near Pasadena, California, and we had a protest right outside there. So the idea of, it seems old-fashioned to get out and physically protest, but believe me, the papers took it up. We said, shame on the mayor, and so we have to, not just be internet activists, but we have to keep on the streets.
And I also think it's important to interject too. It's also important to not be just wallet activists either. I mean, granted, it's good to give money to all these different organizations. However, getting out there on the street and actually physically being there, sometimes your presence is the most powerful word. So you don't even have to say anything. Just be there on the street. Show your support by being there.
That's right. And the other thing is, there's a big argument against do we give to gay incorporated, as they call it, And here's what I think. I think that the fact that people get together and have these dinners and spend $150, I'm not going to knock them. I'm not going to knock them because if people need that, they need that. That's fine. But that isn't. And I must say, here in California, we now have every right, except we have to bring the right to marriage back. So I have to say that Equality California really did well for us. However, we also had a grassroots base that were on the streets all the time, that did all sorts of things, and so advocacy and activism. And so it's okay. I'm not going to tell people, just like I don't want them to tell me not to get married, don't go to your $150 dinner or whatever, But I think we should be cognizant of that it's activism and legal advocacy as well as political advocacy that has brought us rights in California. And we should never lose our anger. You know what the gay people's greatest strength and greatest weakness is? Love.
The loss of anger.
No, love. Because we want to be loved as a people. If only they knew us, they would love us, right?
Very true.
And so we're loving as a people, and we want to be loved, and that's our greatest strength because we're loving. And it's also our greatest weakness because we care what they say instead of saying, look, we want it, and that's it, and I don't care what you think of me. We want our rights. And so I think that we have to deal with, because we've had such rejection, or at least in my generation, from parents and from this and from that we really care about being loved.
Let me try. I changed something. Okay. Let's see if it goes through. Oh, I think we're going to get her.
Sweet.
Robin Tyler.
We're hanging on your words.
Welcome back.
You know what? I just recorded. I was a comic, and I just recorded. I stopped doing it for about 20 years. In New York, I did a show called Always a Bridesmaid, Never a Groom. Off Broadway. I know, I like with a sense of humor. Fabulous. Off Broadway, opposite Torch Song Trilogy. We both were doing the lines. And the critics said, well, both plays are really, really funny, but Robin Tyler's play about wanting to marry somebody of the same sex just isn't realistic enough. So I revived it, and I put it on in November and filmed it. And what it's going to be a history of the gay movement from my perspective. I'm a comic, right? And based on, I use my ex-lovers as transitions. So I'm going to put out a film. So when you say nobody knows about it, except not all my ex-lovers, or it would be a film festival,
I can't wait. I mean, I was just saying too that how I fell in love with the comedy back in the early days when there weren't any gay comics, and you had that painful, angry truth that really resonated. So I'm really glad you're doing something with that again.
I went back. Yeah, I finally went back on stage, and not once I got married, and I do all the Prop 8 stuff and everything. But it's great because nobody really has done our history, so I show the marches. I mean, it's from my point of view because I was there, and it's funny, which is thank God. If we printed all the fights and arguments, I mean, it would be, So I don't know. Anyway, by the way, I'm very excited because HBO is doing like a 5-hour series on Mildred Pierce. I'm really a gay man. No, do you know about this? At the end of the month, I can't wait. Nobody is going to be better than Joan Crawford, but I'm waiting.
I didn't even know about
Life
that.
is not all work.
But I got a question, Robin, because you seem to have this great fortune where you have more of the younger ones that are aware over on the West Coast. And one of the things we've been discussing is like the center and the Northeast and the Southeast. Everybody seems to be so disenfranchised and fractioned off and totally unconcerned. How do we get back to that whole grassroots that we've lost?
The way we used to do it, we never did marches on Washington because we thought that Congress would listen to us. We did marches on Washington because every time we were trying to reach the South or the West, I'm by the way, from Winnipeg, which is the Midwest. It's 500 miles above Minneapolis, right? So I come from a sort of a rural setting. And every time we try to reach people, we would do marches because we knew that they would organize around going to something big in Washington. And that's what happened, and that's how we reached out. We gave them something. It ended up to be a weekend of marching and partying. But we did manage to organize, and that's how we got new people. And I called for one in 2012 because this is just right after we lost Prop 8, and Obama didn't help us. And I called for a march because I thought it was an election year. We could register people to vote and get youth interested. And then, unfortunately, Cleve called for a march, like in the 4 months, the mini march that he did. And so about 100,000 people ran to Washington and thought that was like the great march. But it wasn't in an election year, and it didn't do anything. It got some very good, Robin McGehee is terrific, and Kip Russ. So it got some good grassroots, public organizers. But it really kind of took the wind off of doing one in 2012. But that's, if you're asking how to reach people, you've got to give them something, and they're not going to. They've also been worried when you have a country in an economic downturn, and people say, is it a recession or depression? Well, if you're working, it's a recession. If you're not working, it's a depression, right? And when you have people, when you take away just the fact they can't get food or shelter or clothing or whatever, they're not so much interested in other issues, and I never refer to this as our lifestyle. This is not a lifestyle. Disco dancing is a lifestyle. This is our lives, right? And when they say sexual preference, this is not a movement from the waist down. It's not about sexual preference or sexual orientation. It's about loving. We never describe heterosexuals as sexual orientation. We always talk about love and So anyway, we can motivate our youth, but I mean, but if I called it, I still am pushing for a 2012 march, but the trouble is I'm not sure whether Cleve's Little March, and then you have all the organizations in Washington that don't want it because they say we'll take away, effort from their efforts, right? And this wasn't HRC that said this. It was an executive director of another organization said we take away resources and money, and I said, why would we? You've never given us resources or money. It's like $1 a person to get there, But it does. That's what has mobilized the youth, for the past 30 years. And so that's one way.
One thing, if I may, to me, what we need is another Bay Earth Western. We need another person to stand up and to gather people from across the country, no matter what he had to do. He made sure that there were people there. He had sent buses. He had lunches for them. He made sure that there were cots for them to sleep on. I mean, we need somebody
but it's not one person that's going to do it, because, and also
Right.
Bayard Rustin still had to work with all the other organizations that ended up, screwing him out of the credit. But, in the marches, we've always brought buses. You can't, when you do what Cleve did, a march in 4 months, who's going to be able to save up the money, take off the work time, have money raised so they can attend a march? We've always had buses and places to sleep and stuff. That's why it's such a hard thing. It's not the main stage that's difficult. It's the logistics of getting people out. But there's not going to be one hero coming out. As far as I'm concerned, Reverend Troy Perry is like a Bayard Rustin in that he organized 50,000. There's 50,000 people, and he took all these young Christian kids, although I'm not religious, but he got them all not to kill themselves. And so we have had leadership in our time, but it's not one person that's going to do it. We like to look up and say it was Harvey, but it wasn't really Harvey, because at the time when Harvey was working in San Francisco for the supervisors, we were organizing down here so gay school teachers wouldn't, and we want it here. And do you know what I mean? So if we're looking for one, like Mahatma Gandhi or one thing, it's not, what if I just turn around and say to you, you are the one? And then if you turn around and say to the person next to you, you are the one. If you see a mountain full of, can I say a dirty word on here?
Yes.
Okay, if you see a mountain full of shit and it looks too big for you to overcome, if all of us pick up a teaspoon and dig, we'll overcome the mountain. But we're waiting for someone at the top of the mountain to say, come, let's do this. There's nobody at the top. It's you. It's you and you and you and you and you.
Yeah.
Harvey Milk only represented the generation. And I liked Harvey. I knew Harvey. He only represented the generation, though. It wasn't one person. It was a whole generation that just decided not to take it anymore. And so so this idea of a singular leader, it doesn't happen, and it doesn't happen like that.
But years ago, I remember that they used to leaflet like the clubs and everything to make people more aware of what's going on. But I know on the East Coast, most of the clubs are closed. There's really very few venues at this point.
Right. We used to do the bars in the baseball fields, the two Bs. The bars for the boys, the baseball fields for the women. So they are closed, but there's still, we can outreach through the internet, but you have to give them something to do. It's not enough to, most of these people are being decimated in 30 states by the marriage thing being taken away, and then they try to attach all other kinds of rights. They take away rights we don't even have. You know what? That's so cute. They take away rights we don't even have yet. Let's take it away. We don't have it. How can you take it?
Right.
So what you're saying is, how do we encourage people? How do we inspire people? Well, we have university campuses to go on. So you got to get out there and speak on the campuses. I speak, and we've spoken for 3 years at a high school here. It has gay awareness days. I mean, it's not so easy. When you're underground, it's not so hard to find each other because we follow the one slim light to the bar. But when you're now overground, it's harder in that we now have to go to the universities, go to the schools, but we can reach people. We do have the internet. They had a whole revolution in the greatest thing Mubarak ever did for the Egyptian revolution is stop Facebook, because then they had to go out on the square and meet each other. I'm serious. That's what they did,
Very good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
Because it's and I love we were saying earlier too, after we kind of got a little bit lost in the shuffle, that the whole imagery that you put with the fountain issue about and that being civil union, that drove it home so clearly.
Right.
So for people who are still sitting on that civil unions thing, when you explain it to them in that terminology, the clarity that comes from that really makes you have that great epiphany and go, aha.
And you know what? It's not marriage they care about. What they, when they used to scare people about African Americans moving into your neighborhood, because if they did, at the time, black people moving in, right? Didn't you say black in the 60s here? Black people moving in, because that means black men may rape your women, right? And then, after the civil rights movement, when everybody got to know African American families and this or that, that wasn't true. But as long as they could keep them silent or away from us, we couldn't see who they were. That's segregation. Well, it's the same thing with gay people. Once we were underground, then they could say, okay, they will rape our children and do this and do that, and we became the big, scary, my gosh, what if a gay man moves into my neighborhood or teaches my school? that's why the most important step is to step out of the closet, because closets are really vertical coffins. They want us. They always said, we don't care what you do in the privacy of your bedroom as long as you don't come out. You bet, because when we came out, they had to see us as human beings, and as human beings that had the same desires that they did. Most of us like to take a vacation, have a good job, sun on the beach. Have a relationship or two, and so marriage brought it home to people that most of us were very much like everybody else in the fact we wanted love, we wanted whatever. And that's why marriage was such a threat to the right wing. It had nothing to do with the actual, legal commitment of marriage. They just thought, okay, my God,
Okay, well, just say you got some listener now in the middle of America. Where could we direct them to at this point to start getting more information?
Especially in places like Arkansas and Nebraska, all those
Peoria,
states. Right.
Well, they can just Google if they just want information. But I would, we all have the information now. How do we get active? We have the information. Anybody can get. It's not like, oh, we'll reach the kid, and they all know. I have kids in grade 9 and 8 that and that go on Google and do something. I think they should get active. I would hook up with Get Equal, GETEQUAL, and see how they could start something in their city or in their town or in their rural province. There's Marriage Equality USA if they want to work on that issue. There's a whole bunch of grassroots groups. So it's not enough for them to get in touch and informed. We want to get them. We want to get them active.
Right, and get them on the streets.
Yes, yes, we do. Yeah. It works.
That's what we're looking
at. We need the faces. We need the bodies. Because that was one of the unfortunate things. Because New York, remember back in the day, they used to have New York Native. We used to have some gay press out there. We don't have these avenues anymore. Now, granted, the information may be on the net, but if you don't know what you're looking for, it's very easy to also come up with a lot of bogus pages too.
Well,
so
don't
like
you
you
have
saying,
the New
Get
York?
Equal.
Wait, don't you have the New York? No. Andy Humm writes for a paper in New York, a gay paper.
Gay City is here. That's one of the papers.
The what?
No, I'm not even aware
Gay
of that.
City. The Gay City paper?
Yeah. Gay
What
City
is actually
News.
a paper?
Yeah, Gay City. Yeah, it's like our paper right now.
But you know what? I get the Advocate every day, and I get the stories from the Advocate, and there's all kinds of blogs. I mean, you can get information. It's how do we inspire to get active? By the way, don't be depressed. We've been at it a long time, so we can say, well, we have less civil rights than any other developed country in the world, and that's true. But on the other hand, I'm seeing tremendous movement as well. The dam has broken. They're not going to be able to go back to what they did to us. It's just a matter of there's a crack in the dam of this kind of prejudice. It's a matter of if we want to trickle through as we have for the last 30 years, or if we finally can just, have this...
Blow that dam right open.
Yeah, blow the dam right open. So I don't want to seem negative all the time. And you know what's great, too, about getting on the streets and being involved? Passion is much better than Prozac.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
You don't stay depressed, and you don't stay, I don't have a community, and how do I reach someone? You get passionate about something and something. And so there's a tremendous payoff for being involved. I came back after Arcadia, and there were a lot of young people there, too, from Arcadia, and I just felt great. It's just great. Try it. You like it.
Yeah. That's why we're looking to volunteer in our local community center, and also looking to connect with people like yourself and Tom and Kale and Mike, and really just.
I don't know who's talking to me, so I don't know who we are or where you are.
Hi, I'm Cisco, and we're from New York City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm Kale from Hawaii.
Hi, Kale.
And I'm Mike, the one that sounds like traffic.
Okay, I'll tell you what. When my film comes out, when I put it's not going to. I'm going to put it out on the gay circuit and stuff. But I'll come along with it if people want to show it. I'll be more than happy to come and talk about the history and what we can do and stuff. And that's maybe a way to organize, because you have to give them something. It's all funny anyway, but that's one way for me to start going around again.
One of the things too that we would.
Yeah,
well, one of the things we were also saying is, like, with most of the gay radio that's out there, it's all fluffy stuff. It's all dance music or fashion. Whereas with Queer Public Radio, Tom has basically tried focusing on issues.
Right.
So it's like
Mike
this
Signorelli does too, though. Mike Signorelli does.
How do you get to it, though? I know
Sirius
he's around.
Radio?
He's on Sirius. Okay, so you have to have Sirius to hear him.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. I mean, what?
Right.
See, I don't have Sirius, so I don't hear him. So
well, that's
like
good then, because then people can hear you because it's free. So that's good.
Yeah,
so this is why I like this show, because it's like, okay, we can get focused on some issues. We can start getting beyond the fluff and that watered down.
And we can use our voices, for positive change instead of all this Lady Gaga and Justin Bieber. I mean, take away my gay card because I can't stand either one of them. But it's.
Well, I'll tell you. Here's what I do, though. I do respect Lady Gaga, and I'll tell you why. First of all, she came out for Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and I respect that. We got Sybil Shepherd and Ian McCallan and Melissa and Judith Light and a whole bunch of people at the 1993 march. So I respect anybody that is on our side. But the second thing is, they did a survey of people. I think it was a couple thousand people, and they said if you thought people were born gay, should they have their rights? And the survey, 85%, 82% came in saying yes, we should have all civil rights if we were born that way. And so about 80% of us believe we were born gay. My answer is if I weren't, I would have chosen it anyway. But 80% of us believe we were. But whether or not scientifically we can argue we were or not, which I believe we were, most of us, her coming out with born gay and therefore don't be prejudiced is coming out on our side. So if I'm going to waste a negative breath on anybody, I'm going to waste a negative breath on the people that are fighting us, the right-wing bigots that are fighting us, or the gay homophobes in the Republican Party that hide their identity till they're cut. But I don't ever knock anybody, whether I like their style or not, who is our friend. I think
right.
we shouldn't judge our friends. I think we should embrace our friends and there's differences, and but let's save our vitriol for the people that are really stepping on our head.
Well, and here's the thing: those in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. So
right. I don't know what that
throwing
means.
that out there.
Okay. Well, we have an anger underneath us all. When they used to talk about gay camp and they meant that kind of bitchiness, they came in that gay camp and that anger or that kind of humor that was bitchy and angry. Because I was with drag queens. I was arrested and got sent. In New York. Was arrested for female impersonation at a drag bar. So I became a female impersonator at the 82 Club, and so I was around that kind of vitriolic. But that was kind of a defense for us to become like that, and we would make it either self-deprecating, the bitchiness, right? Oh, Mary, or we would do it at each other. But it was rage that we had, right? Well, we need to take the feelings we have. First of all, anger doesn't move us. Anger just destroys you. Anger just eats you up. If you're coming at something because you love the ideal of being free, it'll sustain you a lot longer than being angry at everything.
Yeah, well, that's why I was. This is Cisco, by the way. That's why I was saying that really our social media sites. I mean, as far as Twitter and Facebook, are they really helping us? Because a lot of the times you're seeing tweets about let's go out and stone these straights so they could give us our rights, and really that's only going to breed more hate and that's only going to breed more negativity. That's not going to get anything across but handcuffs and people beating on us and. That whole animalistic approach, and
two wrongs don't make
a right, and that's why I think a lot of the times Twitter and stuff.
I agree, but you know what? We're not in control. We can't control what they do. We can only put forth our own presence and hope that the media and people focus on what we do. So I don't waste any time with people that do this kind of stuff. I just continue to do what I do. And because again, it burns our light inside if we keep saying, but they did this and they shouldn't do that. I don't want to waste any time on what they do. I want to just continue to do what I do. Of course, I'm in recovery, so it's called Let It Begin With Me.
Exactly. Well, that's why this is good that we're actually able to connect and communicate our different opinions because even though we don't have it in our everyday vocabulary or we're talking about it every day, when we bring it in a situation like this where we could touch different people and on a lot of people, then it's healthy to talk about it, because then people actually focus on themselves more than they do focusing on bashing each other. And this is a great thing, really. Thank you again, Tom, for having something like this.
Okay, I have one negative thing to say. I thought the Academy Awards were so boring.
Amen, sister. Amen.
With that, I'm going to say goodbye with that, okay?
Thanks, Robin. We'll talk to
All
you
right,
again.
bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, Robin.
Bye.
Thank you, Robin.
Well, it all worked out in the end anyway. Goodness gracious.
It did.
She's amazing.
I love that lady.
She's amazing. She really is.
Yeah, we're going to have to set up a special show and have her on a featured guest.
Well, actually, yeah,
really
the sister's going to have that movie coming out. Hey, we could have an interview with her for that.
Yeah,
that would
be great. That's something that should be definitely pushed.
Well, guys, we need to wrap it up. So let's go around the table. And any last words from anybody? We'll start with Robin, Cisco, and Bob. Go ahead.
Just want to say it's been a pleasure, and hopefully everybody got out of it what we got out of it. And just a little sideline. Please come visit Back in the Gays and support us and send in your coming out stories or whatever stories you have about history and gay history. So, people can go there to learn about, what's going on and where it came from. Cisco?
I just really, once again, want to say thank you, Tom, Kale, Mike, Robin, even the listeners. Hopefully someone made the connection that, it's time for us to rise above the occasion and stop hiding behind our computers and really start connecting more in our neighborhoods, in our communities, start volunteering, connecting with all these people, supporting Tom, because this is a great cause. And just hugs and love and kisses to everyone, seriously.
Can you feel the love, Tom?
I can feel the love.
It's overflowing. What
as
happened
long
to
as
Bob?
the love is overflowing and not the toilet, you're okay.
There you go.
Okay, well, was Bob going to say something?
I think what we're talking about is we're trying to change human lives, and we have to consider what our options are, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to change people, and to get them to do that on a human level, right? It doesn't matter whatever your identification is. We have to figure out how to change these people, and we have to figure out what is the best way that we can do this. This kind of a forum that we're doing today, this is definitely an extraordinary way to reach the masses, if there's any way that's possible to do that. And I thank you all. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for being with us. Awesome. Well said, Bob. Thanks. Wow. The audience liked it too.
What the hell is that blowing my eardrum out? I've been away from New York too long. I'm not used to loud noises anymore. I have to suffer with crickets on steroids now to try to sleep.
Mike, we got to thank Mike. And Mike for bringing that wonderful Robin to speak with us. Thank you, Mike, and making that connection there and being with us today. And now the podium is yours, Mike.
Oh, I'm just here just to kind of be, like I said, Judge Judy on steroids when necessary. I'm the loudmouth, but sometimes I'm demure and shy. Okay, my nose grows longer too. Shut up. I'm just glad that we have this station because it can present the information that we need to be out there. I don't know so much about changing people as much as we have to change ourselves on our perspectives and try to educate people and let them come to the connection whether they can change or not. Because realistically, I don't think we can change anybody. But that being said, I can understand the sentiment behind that. And yeah, I'm glad we actually had this forum. I was kind of coming into this rather hesitantly. I was like, I don't know how this is going to be. I had nightmares of this turning into the View on, a bitch session version of the View of some sort. And it didn't turn into that. It was a nice exchange. Everybody got a chance to talk without stomping on top of one another. And we got some information out there. So I'm hoping that even the listeners glean some stuff out of it, whether it's from Robin or from, some of the other panelists as well. So really, this is definitely something that's going to really fly very well. Congratulations on that, Tom.
Thank you, Mike. I think.
And Cal, awesome. I'm jealous. You live in Hawaii. I want a grass skirt and a coconut brassiere. And that's all I'm saying on that.
We'll check this in the mail.
And of course, Cal, and I guess Wakeli isn't on the line with us anymore, but we got to thank him too for speaking with us. And Cal, the podium is yours.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, thank you very, very much for hosting this and for, taking the time out to make sure that our community is one that is educated as far as the issues that matter in all of our lives, not just our community, but all of the human family, because we all are a human family, and it is important that we love and support each other. Whether that be financially or through our voices or through our bodies and our actions. It is important that we are all one human family. Okay. And if I can just put a little plug in for Wakeli of Hawaii, it's important to also to support our local gay businesses. You can find us at www.wakeli, that's WEKELI Hawaii, HAWAII.com.
Yeah, that makes
all right.
Don't you even have that link set on the page, Tom?
Yeah, there is. There's
the gay business link site. So Cal, take a look at that and post it there too.
Yeah, it's over there in
the it already is, my friend. Yeah. Thank you.
It's in the gay links. It's in the gay links on queerpublicradio.com. You see a button that says gay links there, and it's listed under the business section. And yeah, they're there.
Okay, I'm bad. Go ahead, slap my wrist. I'm bad. I haven't looked yet. Okay, I know.
No worries.
I've been training a puppy to stop chewing my feet. Okay.
But before we close this down, why don't we talk about what we might discuss on our next
that's
table.
A good idea. That's an excellent. I'm glad you remembered that, Kel. What do y'all think about for next week? A primary topic for discussing.
I think we should talk about pride. Does it help or does it hurt us? And the negative stereotypes we get from it that the news media shows, and I think there's that's a good topic that we can talk about because we are starting to come up on pride events and it's going to be fresh in our mind now as we get closer to June.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think
that's a good idea.
So you want to
talk
about pride then? Is that what you're saying? You want to talk about pride?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, pride. Is it a march or is it a dance?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, is it a political rally or is it just a chance for a bunch of leather queens to show off their butts and or dance a party or whatever, or is it something that is actually helping us?
Yeah, that'll be a good topic for next week. Yeah. I know I got a few opinions because I go to the one in Seattle here. They have a pretty good sized one. But anyway, we better wrap it up because we're running a little long, and I'm going to have to do some editing, which is going to delay the podcast. And Kel will be complaining up a storm. I don't have the podcast posted fast
enough. Because I would like to get that podcast on my Facebook page so that our community can listen to it.
This podcast will be played approximately 8 to 10 times in the next 2 weeks, live, I should say pre-recorded live on the stream on queerpublicradio.com. You can check out the schedule on queerpublicradio.com to see when it's going to be rebroadcast. And, of course, it's available as a podcast on demand 24/7. Want once I get it posted, which should be about 2 hours from now, maybe before then. Anyway, we shall return, and as Kel so wonderfully said, we're all one human family. I'm going to go out with a song that my brother wrote, because I think it speaks even more poignantly after Robin reminded everybody that love is the message, love is the power, and love is what brings us together as one. And love, is the energy. Love is the soul. Love is where it's all at. And my brother wrote this wonderful song called Love Is All There Is.
Why is it so important to you what other people do? And why do you care? It seems it must bother you. Can't you just let live alone? Let them be. Everybody's got a life of their own. Let it be. You've had your troubles, I've had mine. Sometimes we don't deny. Things don't always go our way, but you gotta live for another day. So he loves you, and so you love him. What if both of you are men? Just let it go, my friend. 'Cause love is all there is. Love is all there is. Love is all there is. Yes, love is all there is. Don't matter who you are or the color of your skin, male or female or transgender, I don't care anymore. Just let us all be. Let everyone be who they want to be and who they want to be with. 'Cause love is all there is. Love is all there is. Love is all there is in this world. It's the best thing. So if you're a hater, get out of the way. Go somewhere else to play. We don't need you around today. We don't need you around today.
I love you, and you, and you. Oh, and you too. And don't forget him. I love her, and him, and her, and him, and him, and her. I love you all.
Adios. Have a nice trip. Bon voyage. Farewell to thee. That's all, folks.
We'll leave the light on for you.